Now then, it's Burnsy, and welcome to our regular Curiosity podcast, the CuriosityCast. Every episode, we take questions asked by members of the public in Hull and try to get them the best answers from the very best brains in the city. Not all questions are about Hull. They can be about whatever you want to discover. Seeing as the podcast has been on a bit of a break, we thought this episode would do one of our regular catch-ups on all matters local. So here to bring us up to speed with what's going on in the realms of politics and public realm and whatever else he can get the lowdown on is our favourite journalist, Angus Young. Angus, welcome to the Curiosity Cast. It's been a while. Where shall we begin? Last time you were here, we discussed the local mayoral election, so it seems appropriate we deal with this question from Liz in HU9 on the Preston Road. Is it all unravelling for Luke Campbell already? Bit harsh, Liz, but Angus will tell us.
Harsh but fair. Yes, it isn't unravelling at quite a bit of a speed, really. Luke was elected in May as the region's first directly elected mayor, and you would expect a bit of bedding in and maybe a quiet sort of opening, but come the silly season, which is August, which is when us journalists usually hunt around for stories which are hard to find, he's been providing stories left, right and centre. The first one was pulling out of the Yorkshire Rose agreement with the other three Yorkshire mayors, who are all Labour mayors, obviously. And that agreement was already in place. He was invited to join, and it was basically a smiley partnership agreement to say we'll all work together and be friends for the next couple of years and agree on very broad policy stuff. And he was expected to sign it, and then he didn't. He pulled out, and the story that appeared was that he wasn't happy with the inclusion of net zero in the wording of the partnership.
But he'd campaigned positive on that, hadn't he? He said he wanted it.
Yeah, he'd campaigned on green energy, said he wasn't into politics and he was jobs first and all that sort of thing. But when it came to the crunch, my suspicion is that he got his strings pulled by nationally reform, because nationally reform are very anti-green energy and particularly net zero, and they've been very public about it, and he couldn't put his name to that. At least he was instructed maybe not to put his name to that. So that was the first story. Second story came soon after, was the staffing issues at the new authority, with people either resigning or being told to leave.
Telegraph quoted or says, the Daily Telegraph says, new mayor is at war with his staff, and Hull Live, I think, said there was a toxic working environment and at war with his officials. What's going on there?
This is stuff that he hired or he was given?
Well, it's a bit of a mixture. He hasn't really hired anybody yet. There was seconded staff from the two councils to sort of provide a handover, if you like, and a couple of interim staff who were appointed again to get the thing up and running beforehand, and then so at least there was some sort of organisation in place. Those interim staff were only there for short periods of time, usually about six-month contracts. Some of them have left already for reasons that are generally unknown. I've spoken to one of them, and the reason was actually the commuting was just too much. He lives across in Cheshire, and he found it a bit too much to be coming across to Hull. So he brought his tenure to a close early. So there has been an exodus of staff. I know Luke, in a BBC interview, denied there was a toxic environment, but you can count the number of staff on one hand, basically, at the moment, and that is the mixture of seconded and interim staff.
Being fair to Luke, is that just somebody going in from a totally different background to a local government background and saying, well, why the hell do you do that? I want to do this. Why can't we actually do it? I'm the mayor now.
Yeah, I think
I've been elected. I want to do this.
Lateral thinking.
Well, yeah, exactly. And the council bods are maybe saying, well, you can't do it that way.
I think
is there an element of that in there?
Yes, there's a big element of that. I think it's very much oil and water, public and private sector. I've worked in the private sector all my life, but I've reported on the public sector, and I know what the differences are. It's a huge difference in terms of attitudes and how things get done. But unfortunately, if you stand for election as an elected mayor, you become a politician and become part of the local government furniture, and you've got to work within those rules, I think. So I think there's probably a bit of both. You can probably bring some private sector ideas into the public sector to get things going, but this strategic authorities like this, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I think Luke's gone in maybe thinking he can do things sort of straight away, and obviously that's just not how it works.
But the public, the people that elected him, will have wanted him to go in and be different and shake it up and create something for the area.
Yeah, I think there was certainly an expectation. He did say that he was going to hit the ground running when he got elected, and then 3 months later he said on the BBC interview that he wasn't, he'd never really been committed to doing anything major in his first 100 days. So a bit of a contradiction at times.
Presumably when you've got something like him who's never been in politics, the staff have to point out what his roles and responsibilities and where the edge is, where the edge of the cliff is, where he's in danger.
Yeah, and I'm sure they have done, and maybe that's where some of the tensions have arisen. The chief executive is an interim chief executive. He's sort of been in that role in different parts of the country over the last couple of years. He's got a big, long 20-odd year career in local government at the highest level of chief executives of councils like Birmingham and things like that. So he certainly knows the score. Combined authorities are new, so there's a degree of sort of getting used to how they operate, even though they exist elsewhere, each one slightly different. And so, yeah, the new chief executive post has been advertised and should be appointing fairly soon. They've had 25 applicants.
And he or she would be the chief executive of what exactly?
Of the combined authority. So he or she would effectively be the main, call the main paid head of paid service, but he or she will be the main person alongside Luke to guide and steer the authority for the next 4 years.
Presumably, then Luke Campbell would appoint them.
There will have been an appointment panel with Luke and other. I'm assuming.
How much is it paying, Angus?
It's 125,000 a year.
Check's diary.
Isn't that a big chunk of his budget though? His budget's not that massive, is it?
It's 13.3 million a year.
Oh, no, I'm completely wrong. I can only apologise.
We should just remind you, because it's a while since we've done the Curiosity Cast. This is the deep and sonorous voice of Mr. Dave Lee, the mastermind behind Curiosity and the Curiosity Cast.
While we're taking a break, David, it's very lovely to see you back.
Yeah,
and healed and off the bench.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to say I've been jetting round the world to the hot spots, sipping champagne, sitting on a beach. Hello, Cleethorpes. Hello, Mablethorpe and Hornsey. But I've been baffling medical science.
You've been on the hospital tour.
Yeah. But I think I'm all right, so I'm back. But if you do hear a heavy thud, Dave will take over completely,
but not as heavy as it would have been a few months ago. He's lost a bit of weight, has Dave. Well done.
Yeah, and can I just say, if there is a heavy thud, don't worry, neither of you have to give me the kiss alive. we're all right.
Going back to Luke Campbell,
Indeed.
I heard a rumour, and you might be able to squash this, that the problem he had with his staff is he was making them wear gum shields and spit in buckets.
and silky shorts.
Yeah. And if you haven't heard that rumour, I've started it.
Yeah, okay. Jab and move. Yeah. Just on the subject of money, one of the things money-wise, and even this was contentious. He announced a £1 million community fund where the public can get involved, and Tom Astle, one of the East Riding councillors, said he can't do that, it's against the rules, and apparently those rules didn't exist, and it's all a bit messy. Does it exist? How do people get involved? What's going on?
It exists in as much as that Luke announced it on his Instagram, rather than through the official website or indeed in any decision-making process at the combined authority. And I think that underlines this oil and water thing.
Exactly. Perfect example.
So he went ahead with this. There's nothing wrong with proposing and eventually agreeing to a community fund, I suppose. There's a lot of merits to it. You could argue it's a strategic authority. It's about big things, and community fund suggests small things, and maybe that's the sort of thing council should be doing rather than strategic authorities, but that's another argument. But the way he's gone about it is probably not best. The fact that there was a reform stamp, if you like, on the online survey that you had to submit suggested that it was a data halving exercise.
But it never told you it was reform until you'd filled in, is that right?
And
thank you for giving us your phone number.
He subsequently said that was an admin mistake, but the whole thing has been a bit of a mess and very badly handled. And I've got to say, personally, badly handled by Luke and reform. I don't think it's had anything to do really with the people at the authority.
Right. So does the £1 million exist?
It will exist when they get round to publishing a decision record, which they should have done, to say this is what we propose to do, and then go through the proper process of the executive board saying, yes, we agree to this fund, and then off you go. But there's no rules to who can apply, criteria, value for money, to anything to stop it being passed off to his mates, that sort of thing. You need all those checks and balances in place.
Right. I thought it was just a suggestion box. Is it more than that then? You put a bid in?
It was ideas.
Right.
I think I didn't fill one in myself. I got so far, but I think it was send me your ideas, which again, nothing wrong with it. And he's announced something that hasn't actually been properly approved yet. And that's the dynamic that I think we're going to see over the next couple of months.
Okay.
It's all it feels a bit to me, a bit Donald Trumpy, a bit announcing things and just making it somebody else's problem.
Yeah, there is a bigger, wider Donald Trumpy sort of feeling about some of the stuff that Reform's doing and saying at the moment nationally. And I think you'll get a little trickle of that locally as well when they tell their local mayors and councillors what to do.
Right. So has anything been achieved then? Has anything come out you think that's a good idea, this is going to benefit the people of this area?
Not yet. No, not really. The Community Idea Fund, it's, as I say, there's nothing wrong with it. It's giving taxpayers money to hopefully worthy projects that will benefit the community. There's nothing wrong with that. Whether, as I say, whether that's the role of a combined authority, that they're supposed to be doing big infrastructure stuff, big strategic job creation stuff, rather than tell us what your local community project is and we're going to give you 50 grand towards it.
Right. Okay. Well, should we move on, Luke? By the way, if you're listening, we'd love to have a chat with you on the Curiosity Cast as how you see it. Ultimately, let's hope he does a good job, because we need somebody to do a good job and drag the region up and everything like that. But
it's all a bit of a mystery at the minute, isn't it?
Well, I suspect to everybody, because it's a new thing.
Scooby-Doo, that's what we need.
I think give it a year, to be fair to it, or the whole thing, both Luke and the organisation and the councillors who are on the board as well, to get their heads around it and get working together and then see where we are in a year's time, because it ain't going to be a quick fix on anything.
Just think how many staff he can sack in a year, though. He's already done 5, hasn't he?
Well, he hadn't sacked them, has he?
No,
to be fair, they resigned. There was
they were asked to resign, which is really weird, isn't it?
Were they asked to
resign?
Apparently
so, yeah.
Right.
Will you resign?
Okay. I think there was a bit of, as I say, people leaving for other reasons as well.
All right. There was one lovely quote from the Telegraph, Luke Campbell, on the staff. We've got staff who think they can run the show, get paid a fortune, and do as little as possible. So I think it's been a cultural shock for everybody.
That's interesting.
I would suggest that quote maybe isn't necessarily coming from Luke's lips, but again, coming from on Hive.
Should we move on? We'll return to it, because it's fascinating. I think it's
question 2.
Very good, actually. Question 2, Angus Young, our guest on the Curiosity Cast. Has work stopped on the 3 ships mural, says Ian, in My Manor in Hessel?
Yes, it has. The contractors who were on the job, Burnsy, had a contract break clause once they'd finished stripping off all the asbestos, which has taken years. There was an option for them to say, that's it, we don't want to go any further, with agreement, obviously, of the council, and they decided, mutually agreed to leave the contract. And so the council are now looking for a new development partner, and I think the appointment is due in about November. They've advertised, so presumably they're going through a shortlist and appointing a new contractor fairly soon.
That doesn't sound like good news in any way, shape or form.
No, not really. You would read between the lines, you think Burnsy aren't convinced that it was going to be a profitable contract for them going forward. So, it's plan B, I think.
Right. And
which is plan B, just leave it stand?
Well, the plan B is to pretty much continue generally with plan A, which is to keep the mural up in place. If you go past it at the moment, it looks a bit perilous, but that's going to be at the front of it and then build at the back. Again, after all these years, there's still a bit of uncertainty, I would say, as to what's going to go behind it other than residential and ground floor retail office.
Right. And it's going to cost more money if the contractor thinks and use the break clause, has obviously thought, well, we're not making any money here. This is going to cost us an arm and a leg. We can't charge them more or whatever. It's going to cost the taxpayer more cash.
Well, the council will have a budget envelope, as they say, to a budget limit as to what they've allocated that the money for. I think it's over £100 million that I've tucked away somewhere for it. If it goes beyond that, that means they'll have to scale back what their original plans were. So things like the urban park that was mentioned in the first plans, essentially everything's got to go back, I think, to detailed planning again once the new contractor comes on board to agree to what they're going to build. So, I mean, hopefully most of the elements that were in the plan as was, urban park, residential, office and retail on the ground floor will stay there, but the shape and size of it might be different.
Is anything running to timetable in the city?
Well, I got here just on time.
Yeah.
Today.
I was slightly late. Trying to find a parking spot.
Could the council apply to Luke Campbell for some community money to look after the mural? Would they get an extra 50 grand to chuck on top?
The sound of I don't think 50 grand's going to be enough, and that's the sound of a pot being stirred there.
Quite possibly. But you know, joking aside, councils, I suppose both Hull and East Riding could bid into the combined authority and say, could you provide some match funding for strategically important infrastructure projects?
So they want that daft question.
Like Albion Square. And so,
but it's not going to benefit the people of the East Riding, is it?
No, but there may be a similar equivalent in East Riding somewhere, perhaps. A road scheme or something.
But just on the subject of project delays, this from Sharon in HU15 in Brough, will all the maritime projects definitely open in 2026, or will there be yet more delays?
Well, yes, this is the delay podcast. And we've spoken about all these delays before, but at the moment, as I read it, everything maritime-wise is scheduled to be on time not on time, but delivered by 2026 after numerous delays on various projects. The latest being Spurn Lightship, which should have been open this year, but then they had to go out and re-tender the contract for the last bit of landscaping work. So that's been pushed back to 2026 as well. So everything else is 2026, and that includes the Arctic Corsair, if they manage to get it in on the correct tides into the shipyard. Now they've got the dredging licence approved, which I don't think last time they had when we came and chatted here. So the dredging licence has been secured, so they can go ahead and dredge all the mud and silt out to create a sort of channel to get the ship in. It's just a case of hitting the right tides. I think there's only a couple next year where they can actually do it. But that's the plan. And then once it's in, the Arctic Corsair will then have to be fitted out as a museum along with the visitor centre that's on the dockside there. So I think they're talking about late 2026 for that.
All right, so that's the most likely to get delayed then out of all of them, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not an expert on turning empty trawlers on tides into shipyards that are a couple of 100 years old, but if they don't get that right, then they'll have to wait till whenever the next tide is right.
Have we any idea at this point when those tides are?
I think it's early next year.
Right.
I've told they're going to do a dummy run with another ship that just to sort of see if it all is roughly the same sort of size, to see if it's workable. And
stunt ship.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to do it without having it.
Where's it being kept now? Where is it?
The Corsair's at William Reid Dock.
So
fascinating.
All the bridges would have to be working as well, because some of the bridges aren't working at the minute, are they?
Drypool Bridge is currently being repaired.
So they'll have to fix the bridge for the right day to get the Arctic Corsair down.
Yeah.
To go into the dry dock.
Yeah, I think Drypool Bridge is currently, I think it's a 4 or 5 month project. So I think by the end of the year, hopefully Drypool Bridge will be finished. It's all. So
if we still had an industry running that river, it'd all be done tomorrow, wouldn't it? You know, I'm not having a go. It would, because it would be the lifeblood of the income of the city, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas it's not anymore. It's going to be interesting, and there's still some jigsaw pieces to go.
I thought you were about to put that one on Luke Campbell's list, creating a job list on the CuriosityCast.
Yeah.
Right, okay. On the Delay podcast, as it's now known with Angus. I should remind you what you're listening to, and thank you very much for your company, wherever you're listening or whenever you're listening. I'll just remind you that you can send us your own question, and we'll answer it either in the next podcast or in the content you can find on the Curiosity social feeds. So message us at www.curiosityhull.co.uk or find Curiosity Hull on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube and Blue Sky. Just a reminder, our guest is local journalist Angus Young, on this first Curiosity cast for a while. This is an interesting one from Danny in HU20, Cottingham. Is it true that Debenhams is going to be turned into luxury flats?
Yes, Danny. I don't know about luxury, but certainly flats. Just while I remember, and I should have mentioned it before, but the other two maritime projects, just very briefly, the Maritime Museum and Queen's Gardens, yes, they are both supposedly going to be ready by 2026 as well.
All right.
So, yeah, going back to Debenhams, yes, it's been empty for a while. Obviously, it's a very big chunk of property in the city centre, yeah. And it's recently been bought by the company that are currently refurbishing the Shire Thorn Centre next door, and have done various other buildings around the city centre, and most notably the bank on the corner of George Street, the old TSB Savings Bank, into apartments. And there's a planning application in at the moment for the Debenhams building to change some of the windows, the upper floor windows, and that is a precursor, as they've done with other buildings, to convert it into apartments and flats and things like that on the upper floors. And I would expect to see an application for residential going in fairly soon.
Have we any idea on timescale? Have you talked to anybody that's given you an indication of, well, in 2 years' time they'll be open for business?
No, I haven't, but I would suspect that's 2 to 3 years is probably a fairly good guesstimate as to how long that would be.
Just thinking in terms of what we were talking about before, the 3 ships. There's meant to be residential development behind that, isn't there?
Yeah, on the vacant bit. Oh, sorry, on the 3 ships. Yes, there is. There is a residential.
So
element.
Will Debenhams becoming residential impact on that? In that they might be harder to move on, and there might not be a developer willing to take on the 3 ships sort of development, or is the city expanding and we need loads more people living in the city centre?
I think it's always demand led, isn't it? So there appears to be a bit of demand for city centre living. Demand would shape, I suppose, the Albion Square scheme, as it's not yet visible. Debenhams is already here. It's just a case of converting an existing building, which I suspect would be easier.
But no news on what's going to be below the upper floors? Because I won't fancy living above a closed down department store.
Yeah, I would suspect it would have to be a mixture of retail and office space. It's difficult because there's quite a big bit of chunk of office space, and as we've seen with Hammonds, that ground floor on Hammonds is not being replaced with anything. So there's no demand for retail, as I can see at the moment. Office space comes and goes, doesn't it?
But if you do get people living in the city centre, presumably they will want some shops and things like that. Is that part of the theory? I think
that was part of the theory, but in this online world of online retail and things like that, and
how big Debenhams was, it was massive.
It's a big space,
huge, because it felt like it was in 2 bits, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it probably. I'm guessing they can section it off so you have different units in there.
There was 2 floors, wasn't there?
Yeah, so. And you make a very good point about Hammonds. It was a point I would have made as well, I think, because they've not managed to get the ground floor. Have you heard anything there, Angus?
No, I haven't. And if you do take a wander through the city centre, you do see an awful lot of ground floor space. That is still space, unfortunately.
The Monocle's open, doesn't it?
Yes, it has.
Is that office or is that residential?
That's office, yeah. That's the old Europa house on the corner of Annaby Road. For those who don't know, the big glass glazed sort of curved building on the corner. That's
the rumour was always, it was a weird rumour, that it was designed by Matthew Corbett's dad. You know, the guy who used to do
Sooty and Sweep.
That was the rumour.
Yeah.
You hear some interesting rumours, don't you?
But Matthew Corbett's dad used to do Sooty as well. So I can't say he was an architect and he's part-time, can you? I just think I must know a lot of liars.
Maybe it's got something to do with the original Cecil Cinema set on that site, apparently.
It could be, yeah.
So maybe he appeared there and then got the idea in his younger days.
It's one for the urban mythbuster.
Yeah.
Yes.
Once this cinema gets demolished, I'll design an office block alongside my Sooty duties.
It's going to be a church, isn't it?
It is going to be a church, yes.
We'll have to see what happens to the bust of John Wayne.
Hallelujah.
Unless it's like a church of worship John Wayne, that'd be handy, wouldn't it?
There probably is one somewhere.
A sect of the Duke.
In a strange American state.
Yeah.
Up in the hills.
Pentecostal Church of the Duke.
Yeah. Oh, we are jumping about. It's good to be back, by the way. Thank you for your company. And I'm going to jump about. Going back to, just back on the maritime stuff, you said 2026.
Yes.
From memory, and my memory's not gone yet, 12 months in 2026. So they on schedule for the month they said they would do it, which I can't remember. Or are we just saying it's a movable feast?
It's a movable maritime feast. I wouldn't go anywhere near months.
Right. Talking of feasts, we're almost
in the saddle.
Almost seamless. What's the game with iron lilies and all that council money? Says Dave from Beverley Road.
Yeah.
Hull. Explain what, for those that don't know, explain what Iron Lilies was.
Iron Lilies was a very nice looking restaurant. I never went in it, to be honest. But
did it used to be Virgin? Was it that unit?
Yes, so the Virgin unit, the original Virgin unit in Prince's Quay, and then it became relatively recently a sort of Instagram friendly restaurant called Iron Lilies, of which the owners of Prince's Quay were awarded £750,000 worth of levelling up fund money by the council to refurb that unit and turn it into an Instagram-ready restaurant. It was empty for a while before that. And
the owners of Prince's Quay, of course, being the owners of Brewdog, is that right?
Owners of Brewdog, owners of the Tower, and owners of nightclubs around the world. Yes, so Iron Lilies became a restaurant and was open for about a year, and then it closed down recently, and the £750,000 was part, I think, from memory, it was about £2 million refit altogether. So it was money that was a proportion of that came from the council. Ultimately, it came from the government under the Levelling Up Fund, and the council have got money to award Levelling Up Fund grants to mainly the city centre areas. You may remember the controversy over Wendy's in Jameson Street getting some money. It was actually money for the building rather than the chain, but there you go. And yeah, so Iron Lilies closed, obviously hasn't worked, and is now empty again. Prince's Quay owners say they're coming back with another restaurant offer in that space.
Iron Lilies, when you say Iron Lilies hasn't worked, one of my other roles is restaurant reviewer for Yorkshire Post. So I'm always looking for places opening and closing and going and reviewing them. I tried to eat at 3 times at Iron Lilies and never once got a seat. And I don't know why.
They'd heard your reputation.
No, the first time I walked up on foot and they said they weren't taking any walk-ups when it was empty. There was nobody in. It's a big place.
Bonkers,
and they said they were expecting some reservations. It's like, 2 of us can eat now. And the second time I tried to book online, and you couldn't book for one person. I was just going to go in and try something, see what it was like. Your minimum booking was 2 people, which was very odd. And then the third time, I can't remember the reason. 3 times I tried to eat there, and not once could. So I don't know if that was a deliberate policy they were doing, or whether it was just a failure of the booking system. But it seems strange that you can try 3 times to eat somewhere and not get in once.
Well, I think as I said before, it didn't work, and it obviously didn't work in your case 3 times. So I just think it hasn't worked. I know people have gone there and said it looks very nice, but the food wasn't even special. It's in a strange place, stuck in a corner of a shopping centre. Prince's Quay overall, I would say, what the hell's going on there, really, because it's lost the Apple store at the front.
What's that going to do?
It's moved to St Stephen's, and if you wander around Prince's Quay, it's very ghostly at times.
Okay.
And on that unhappy note,
oh dear, can we go?
I'm looking at the time, so we'll probably leave it there. Some of these issues, because they're all ongoing, we will revisit again.
Should we finish with like a joke or a song just to cheer people up?
Not necessarily. Well, you can, but the time is such that it'll be lost in the ether. I was trying to be professional for once in my career and thank our guest.
We've got to keep Dave on the straight and narrow here with his health. We can't get into jollity and songs.
Yeah. That's a different podcast. You don't get that on the Delay podcast. You've been listening to the CuriosityCast with me, Burnsy, with Dave Lee, and our very special guest, Angus Young. You can find plenty of Angus's material on the Curiosity website and on all the socials. So we thank Angus for his time. We thank you for listening. And don't forget, you can always send us a question. We'd love to hear from you. Message us at www.curiosityhull.co.uk. Tell you what, did you hear the one about